When I was 10, my mother searched through my Halloween candy for the first time. Although she didn't say why, I'd snuck downstairs to hear the late night news. I knew she was looking for needles, razor blades, and poison, like Ouija boards, haunted houses, crocodiles and sewers, and the satanic messages and rock records. I thought the dangers of Halloween were probably just urban legends. But I couldn't be sure. I was having a sleepover with my best friends, Chris, Sammy, and David, that year. The late October sun was as fat and orange as a pumpkin when it disappeared beneath the smoky horizon, and we headed out to go trick-or-treating. Chris was a vampire, and Sammy was a werewolf. David was a zombie, and I was a clown from It. At the end of the night, some older kids in masks tried to steal our pillowcases full of candy. One of them had a hatchet, and its edge glittered in suburban streetlight. We made eye contact with each other and silently nodded. When Chris gave the signal, we each took off running in a different direction. We met up on my porch, panting, exhausted, and more than a little spooked. We just wanted to get inside, lock the door, and scare ourselves silly with movies that didn't quite feel as frightening as a real teenager with a real axe. I almost didn't notice the little gift bag tied with an orange and black ribbon that sat on our doorstep. I picked it up, curious, and was still holding it when we stepped inside and were confronted by my angry mother. "Do you four have any idea what time it is?" she huffed. "Candy on the counter, now." We all made a big show of moaning, but the truth was we were all happy to be in a bright, warm house with adults around. "That little one, too." I'd almost forgotten about what I was holding. I dumped the contents onto the table. 5 pieces of candy in plain black wrappers. A toy of a hooded figure holding a bloody butcher knife. An antique watch stopped at 1:13 a.m. And a Viewmaster plastic binoculars with click-to-view slides within. My mother carefully examined each piece of candy to ensure it was factory wrapped and free of needle jabs. "Can we have our candy back? Please?" I groaned. "Nope," my father winked as he passed by his own well-traveled route from his office to his armchair. "'Cause I'm gonna eat it all." He snagged one of the strange black candies, unwrapped it, and popped it into his mouth. He didn't make it 5 steps before the wrapper fell from his hands. My father grasped his throat as his face turned purple. "Honey? Honey, are you all right?" My mother sprung to her feet as horrific choking sounds gurgled from my father's throat. As my mother reached him, the noises stopped. "Yep, it is definitely poisoned," my father laughed. My mother punched him in the arm. He was still snickering when he walked upstairs. Before long, my parents were completing their nighttime rituals while Chris, Sammy, David, and I had rode sugar high. My friends never got tired of bad movies and cheesy special effects, but I soon left the blue glow of the screen behind to wander through the dark and silent house, not exactly sure what I was looking for. But I stepped on the wrapper my father had dropped earlier. The outside was completely black, but the foil inside was featured a single printed word. "Am." I shrugged and opened another piece of candy as I fiddled with the knife-wielding toy figure, this wrapper said, "Get." Were they supposed to make a word if I put them together? Get am? Or am get? It didn't make any sense, and I went back to the basement where my friends laughed in beanbag chairs and tossed popcorn at each other. They yelled at me when I turned on the table lamp, but I was focused. I put my eyes up to the Viewmaster's lenses. "Spook-o-matic," read the first slide. A cute, white ghost cartoon floated beside the word. Click! A cornfield surrounded by forest blackbirds peck at a scarecrow hanging from a lonely post. The scarecrow was backlit by the cloudy sky, but its stitched together gray skin looks incredibly lifelike. Click! An abandoned farmhouse in a rain-soaked field. The broken doorway is like an empty mouth, and the smears of mud on the porch suggest that several heavy things have recently been dragged inside. Click! Some candlelit pumpkins on a porch. I get a strange feeling that I've seen those carven faces before. The street in the background seems familiar as well. Click. A loud crash interrupted my viewing. Sammy was wrestling with Chris, who was bragging that he knew an inescapable wrestling hold. David booed and threw popcorn while I warned them to keep the noise down, giggling at our own pathetic efforts to be quiet. We pushed the furniture up against the walls and tried to pin each other with moves we'd seen on TV. Until we were sweating, exhausted, and mad at each other, still not ready for sleep, we put Nightmare on Elm Street on in the background and prepared for a serious game of Truth or Dare. The gallons of Mountain Dew we'd been drinking had their predictable effect, and soon enough, Chris was scrambling upstairs to use the bathroom. On his way back down, he grabbed us each a few handfuls of candy. I noticed he was chomping on one of the strange black toffees. What's that? What's this line inside the wrapper? He frowned. Huh? Chris picked up the Spook-O-Matic and gasped. Dude, it's your house! I grappled the device away from Chris. He wasn't kidding. The most recent slide looked like a blurry photo of my family home, maybe taken from the woods in the backyard. The tiny black figures inside the twilight windows could easily have been my parents and I just a few days earlier. The others pushed and shoved to get a look as well and accidentally clicked forward. A boy sleeps a dimly lit second-story bedroom. I recognized the Terminator poster on the wall, and the model plans hanging from the ceiling, and the books scattered on the old school desk. Because this room is mine, and the boy is me. I hurled a Spook-O-Matic at the wall, as though it might bite me. David, who hadn't been paying much attention to the commotion we were making, cleared his throat. Guys? He held up one of the black toffee wrappers. Ready was written on the silver foil. I riffled through the pile of candy until I found the final black toffee and tore it open. Coming, it read. Heart pounding, I put the wrappers in order and discovered that Chris' line was really an I. Get ready. Get ready, I whispered aloud. I am coming. Ooh, spooky, David rolled his eyes. I mean, I guess it is a good prank, though. The watch. I shook Sammy. What time did it say on the watch? Sammy couldn't remember. The clock read 1:11 a.m. I was hurrying to the kitchen to find the last piece of the puzzle when I heard movement on the back porch. I pressed my back against the couch and tried to stop my heavying breaths. Something scraped against the glass door. I kicked the patio light, bathing the porch in the white radiance. The hooded figure in the pale mannequin mask was identical to the tiny toy sitting on the counter. 1:13 a.m. read the watch and a digital clock on the microwave. The figure outside cocked its head at me and then grabbed the brick and smashed through the glass door. I ran downstairs screaming. I heard commotion in my parents' bedroom, but I wasn't even thinking about them. My animal brain screamed only two messages. Run and hide. Upstairs, I heard the sound of our family's treasured possessions being thrown, hacked apart, and shattered. Adult footsteps charged down the stairs as my friends scrambled to disappear behind doors or under furniture. It was pathetic in the cramped basement. There was nowhere to hide. The hooded masked figure kicked the TV screen, plunging the room into darkness as we choked back tears and held our breath. We could feel the figure stalking around the room, throwing furniture and laughing and laughing. The laughter in the dark continued until police sirens sounded in the distance, and my father finally kicked down the door into the basement, which the intruder had propped shut using a chair. Slash marks covered the walls and furniture, shattered discware and picture frames covered the floor. The intruder escaped through the unused air vent at the back of our basement crawl space. The police later said that our attacker might have come and gone from the house any number of times before via the same route. Somehow, however, my family and friends were alive and unharmed. Physically, anyway. Psychologically, some of us for life. I normally don't like to dig up memories like these, especially ones from the past. but it's hard not to fear for my own children around Halloween. This year, they finally twisted my arm. I decided to let them go trick-or-treating, but I insisted that they go with their mother and armed. But they're in public after all, so I'm not too concerned about that part of the evening. What bothers me, though, is the little bag I found on my porch, tied with black and orange ribbon. I've just finished opening it and unwrapping the black toffees inside and laying out their message. It read, "Ready for round 2."